Major spoiler warnings ahead. Smooth performance, incredible music, intuitive and memorable level design, a touching story, and an immaculate vibe were what Hollow Knight Silksong needed to blow away the industry's expectations. And it did, as it crashed multiple stores upon release. But being the successor to the first acclaimed and fan favorite game that I have spent so many hours playing, named Hollow Knight, it needed to live up to all of these aspects and deliver difficulty as well. On that front, Silksong lived up to the hype, and one of its bosses is the perfect example of the hardest boss ever made. In classic gaming community fashion, gamers are divided on the perception of the difficulty in-game. Some say the game was easy and disappointing. Others say it's the hardest game that they've ever played in a long time. But the majority of the discourse makes it hard to quantify the difficulty category for sure. Lo and behold, with this conversation, the inevitable comparisons to Dark Souls and Fromsoft games were sure to spring out. Again, while this talking point is tiring at this point, it's not unfounded. Silksong, much like its predecessor, is built around trial and error. It's built around adaptability, patience, and execution that echo the games often compared to the FromSoft ones. And the boss known as Lost Lace combined all of these elements with great effect. Some took hours to beat her. Some are still trying, because yeah, she's a really hard boss. And most players left the fight with a few migraines. So let's talk about Silksong's hardest boss ever made, until the DLC. Lace is in some sort of way Hornet's rival in the game, armed with a one-handed blade like a rapier, similar in size, with a fluffy and cheeky voice, dressed all in white, while Hornet boasts that glorious red dress. You meet her multiple times in the game and fight her at least twice, each time with new mechanics and a slightly improved difficulty, very similar to fighting Hornet in the original Hollow Knight. But the one that interests us in this boss fight is the true ending, called Sister of Void. I won't tell you every step to unlock this ending, but I'll give you the general gist. After defeating the Grandmother Silk and laying the Caretaker trap, the Void appears and tries to swallow both her and Hornet. Lace intervenes and saves her rival, but plunges into the darkness with her mother as a result. Determined to help her savior, Hornet heads back to the snails and the shaman to gain some information about the Void. While the snails are tied to the Void, they don't know everything about it. That's why the trap brought the darkness forth. They encourage you to find the Everbloom, the same Everbloom, funny enough, from the first game. A powerful artifact that can withstand the power of the Void. To conjure such a flower, the snail shaman needs the heart of 3 valiant beings of Farloom, the encrusted heart of King Khan of Coral Tower, the pollen heart of Nyleth, and the hunter's heart of Scarsinger Carmelita. With the 3 hearts, Hornet enters her memories and forges the Everbloom. Now you're ready to dive headfirst into the Void Pit to face what awaits. The setting is just immaculate, and the hype is at sky-high levels. You just defeated the boss that you thought was the final one. Then you learned you had 3 more to beat. And then you get to forge a powerful artifact with their hearts, and then you dive into the Void. A concept well established since the first game. Yeah, Team Cherry definitely cooked with this one, and they make you earn that final confrontation. While everything prior to this made you feel the climb, this makes you go to the lowest of lows. The flower protects you, but gets weak as a result. You see the Great Mother Silk tied up in an arena while droplets of void sprinkle your screen, and the void leaks from everywhere. Ambience is top notch. So much so that when Hornet landed, I wondered how I would get out of here. After a shivering cry, Lace comes out of the floor, overtaken by the void, dark bubbles coming out of the ground, and an undeniable aura that darkens your screen. Her laugh and voice still intact, but her newfound identity lost to this power. The fight begins. You've fought every trick this game could throw at you. You've parried blades, you've dodged storms of needles, and still, the hardest boss in Silksong awaits. They don't care if you've spent hours perfecting your dodges or if your controller's about to break. But while Hornet might need to heal with Soul, your face doesn't. That's why the community trusts Geology. 4 steps and less than 2 minutes a day. Cleanser, cream, repair, defense. It's like your build against the hardest boss in Silksong. Reliable, consistent, and made for you alone. Just like learning the boss's final phase, it's about endurance, and Geology helps your skin stay strong, fresh, and ready, whether you're grinding attempts at Silksong or stepping away to touch the surface world again. Geology is armor for your face, no matter how hard the battle gets. It helps that you fought her twice already. Lace keeps the patterns of the 2 previous fights, but adds a void twist. Identifying her blade as a rapier or a tuck weapon helps you greatly, because it allows you to think ahead about the type of attacks you'll see in this fight. Lace tries to slash quickly and pierce as much as possible. Her small stature helps sell that fact too. In the first 2 fights, Lace had a lunge, a parry, a diagonal attack, a double and triple slash forward, and what I call the circles of light, where she puts a white circle that you absolutely need to avoid. And they are all back and scarier than ever. And to top it all, Lace can now teleport around the battlefield by weaving in and out of the void floor. This fight is separated into 3 phases. The first 2 include the same attacks that we mentioned, and they are unrelenting but quite understandable. The lunge leaves a void trace behind her, and instead of doing 1, she does it 3 times. The triple slash remains the same. The diagonal attack now has a hitbox on the rising jump. The only new attack in the first phase are the void tentacles, in which she puts her arm forward and transforms into tentacles. The range is decent, but oh boy, the problem is that she can use them both on the ground, and in the air with no real way of knowing which she'll choose to do. But by dear God, the thing you need to watch out for is that goddamn parry, because she will mess you up badly. But you can feel the confidence at this point. In the familiar territory, nothing is extraordinary except the fierce rhythm of her attacks. And then she screams towards the ceiling. There's no shake, there's no aura, just pure sounds. This means new attacks. She adds 2 area of denial attacks. 3 columns of void tentacles come from the ground while she moves around the map. The spacing is generous and you have plenty of time to stay clear of them, but it doesn't mean you're safe, because Lace can teleport and keep on attacking. And the second attack I call the 6 saws. Lace vomits 6 balls of darkness that fall on the ground and expand into saw-like vines that hurt you if you're too close. Trade-offs are to be made. Either stay far away from her and focus on defense, or take the opportunity to attack her with increased risk. This is a great design, and the split decisions that you make impact your experience greatly. The tempo and the setting all sell this part to just perfection. Moving away from the mechanics, I have to make a tangent about the art direction and the music. The arena is not as claustrophobic as others like Carmelita's, for instance, but the visuals of the void, the waterfalls of the dark goo, and the constant dimming of the lights around you, the only source of pure light being the clash of your attacks, I mean, this is great stuff. But what sends this fight over the edge, in my opinion, is the music. Christopher Larkin went all out on this song, blending classical music and movie music with a crazy level of detail. The beginning of this fight is almost all violin, reminiscent of Vivaldi. The violins give that rhythm. The pattern repeats themselves, just like Lace's attacks. But on top of that, there's a single melody carried out by a single violin. The more damage you deal, the more you fight. The stronger the melody, and the more violins join it. It's an amazing piece of music. It made me think of Carl Jenkins' Palladio No. 1, with the strings that do heavy lifting and shape the story. And this fight is a story. In the first 2 phases, you're fighting like a dance. You know the moves from history, even though it changes a bit. In the same way, the music punctuates everything in this fight. And it seems you know how the music goes, but that's when the 3rd phase kicks in. You're now in the zone. You see how to move against Lace. Lunges, parries, diagonals, you see it all, and then absolute cinema hits the screen. Lace disappears. The grip on Mother Silk loosens as she screams and falls to the ground. The screen becomes darker. You hear a rumbling, and the screen shakes a bit. There are gigantic waves that cross the arena from left to right, and they try to swallow Hornet. The classical fight becomes a cinematic confrontation, almost anime style. Lace comes back, and the music now has voices. It has flutes and multiple string instruments that you find in movie music. It's heroic, and it's sad at the same time. but believe me, it's really hard too. Lace adds 2 more attacks to her arsenal, 3 remnants of void, 3 little circles that shoot individual projectiles in your direction while she keeps her previous patterns of attacks. And now the circle of voids make their return. They function the same as the circles of light in the first 2 fights, but she spawns 4 of them now, and once she detonates them, she slams into the ground, forcing you to space correctly and use the air to evade the slam. But if you're in the air for too long, she jumps to your position. You can't really rest either. Lace is also difficult because you can't jump behind her. Many of her attacks leave remnants of void, and when they don't, it's her that uses her rapier to almost 360 around her. Visually, the void has taken over. It rains from above. It fills from below, and your screen will shake with each clash. This is pain. That and the waves make a comeback. They weren't just a transition into the new phase. They are a new attack in their own right. A perfect fight against her doesn't take more than a few minutes. So imagine how hard she can be if it took hours for some players to reach the 3rd phase, let alone defeat her. For most players, this will take many, many tries. But ultimately, after honing patience, adaptability, and execution, you triumph over your possessed rival. With Lace defeated, you lift her up from the ground, and her mother, the grandmother Silk, lends you power so that you can jump out of the darkness and reach the surface. You super jump while holding her in your arms and try to rise, but the darkness is just too much. While floating in the darkness, the tentacles try to attack you, but then you get saved by the Hollow Knight, who looks like the essence of the void itself. And you see all the offspring of the Pale King just staring at you. Considering you are a descendant of that king, you are at that point a sister of the void, and you get saved from it. Storytelling at its finest. The fight was no joke, but the consensus online is that people just love it. Still, there are some caveats. Lost Lace is rather small as a character. The atmosphere of the place they gave her is an undeniable presence, but when we look at her as the final boss of the game, she feels a little bit underwhelming. She's unrelenting, fierce, and difficult, yes, but not so much that you might feel hopeless. I was never thinking, how the hell am I going to beat this boss, like Melania or Consort Radon gave me. This fight looks great, it feels great, but it wasn't impossible. I bring this up to talk about the idea of difficulty and how the original boss presentations are. I mean, staying within the pocket of Hollow Knight, we can talk about Pure Vessel from the first game. You had a parry, a lunge, a triple slash, void tentacles, projectiles, and circles of light that you needed to stay clear off of too. Pretty much similar attacks to Lace, but the spacing felt harder in my opinion. The columns growing from the ground appeared way faster, in greater numbers, and due to them being larger at the base, the space between them was really tight. Here there are only 3 columns and they give you plenty of time to move out of the way. But on top of that, the character mode of Pure Vessel felt way more imposing than Lost Lace. Fighting her twice before the final confrontation was a great way of setting up the rivalry, but in terms of gameplay, it made the learning curve much easier than just putting the player in front of a new and unknown enemy. Choices and trade-off. Makes a lot of sense story-wise, and the twists with the void were great, but Lost Lace is just shy of the spot of the hardest bosses I've had to face. And I'm sure some DLC will one day correct this course. Now, let's make something clear. She is really hard, okay? Like, she's not easy at all. I'm just saying that compared to some bosses that took some people entire days to defeat or even made them give up a name entirely, I can't put her comfortably in that category. Now, in terms of ambience, setting, music, and gameplay experience, this is a 10 out of 10 though. I love this fight, and I also think there's a potential for more. Some of Hollow Knight's more fanatical players have been echoing the desire for a reprisal in the Pantheon of Silksong, hoping for a more difficult challenge. And if you're not aware, Pantheon was a gauntlet mode in Hollow Knight where the player would compete against a string of bosses in a row without dying at all. 42 to be exact in the final one. While that's a story for another time that I am actively working on, I want to focus on the alternative difficulties added to some of these bosses, where some bosses behaved completely different. Looking at you, Absolute Radiance, and looking at you too, Pure Vessel. Yeah, the one that's similar to Lace was changed for the Pantheon. Now, I want to bring this up because in the Lost Lace fight, we see Grandmother Silk in the background, suspended in a web of silk that links her to the void. And I believe in a Pantheon difficulty for the fight, we could see Lace fight against us alongside Grandmother Silk. The void taking them both would be amazing, and would fill the void left by the spacing of attacks. This could present the fight as a collaborative effort between the two, where Lost Lace continuously zips around, pressuring us with close range attacks and quick movement, while Grandmother Silk weaves needles attacking us from all sides and doing her large sweep in order to zone us out and keep us on our toes. It would explain the size of the arena for sure. And like I said, Lace is rather small, but the arena is huge in comparison to previous ones that you fight bosses in. This is just an idea, but it comes from these little aspects that keep the fight from entering the heavyweights of difficulty like other bosses that we've talked about. While this is just a nitpick, let me make this clear. Lost Lace is a great final boss, and one of the hardest ones that we've had to face in the Hollow Knight franchise, and hopefully she will earn your respect. If you have a boss that is the hardest boss ever made, please leave it in the comments down below.